Now the Predators cross ice pass, score! Right off of the pass to the left side.
Good morning, hockey fans, and welcome to Off the Post. I'm your host, Kyle Savedich, and today we'll be discussing the St. Louis Blues versus the San Jose Sharks in the Western Conference Finals. Now, I've already seen Game 1, and I like to do that just to get an idea of where each team is and what they need to do to either succeed in moving on or need to improve so they can win. So right now, the Sharks are up 1-0. But for any other updates or anything along the lines of that, be sure to follow me on Twitter at IIVTechII. For any other updates you need to know, comments, questions, concerns, if you just want to talk, have an idea of what I should do, and along the lines of that, be sure to follow me on there. But let's strap up your skates and cut through the ice, and let's get into this. First, we're going to talk about St. Louis Blues. Okay, so they had to get through the Dallas Stars in round 2. That took 7 games, and let's just go through what their series was like. The first game, St. Louis won 3-2. Game 2 went to Dallas 4-2. Game 3, St. Louis 4, Dallas 3. Game 4, Dallas 4, St. Louis 2, Dallas 2, St. Louis 1 in Game 5. Game 6, it went St. Louis 4, Dallas 1. And Game 7, St. Louis won by Patrick Maroon in double overtime. As a Blackhawks fan, I would rather not see any teams from the Central Division going to the Western Conference. But I picked Dallas to move on, just let alone having Ben Bishop behind the net. And it shows that once you get to this portion of the playoffs, no matter what team it is or whatever the case may be, the goaltenders are good enough. But with Bennington being a rookie goalie, I would have never expected him to get in this far. It's not like a rookie goalie like Cam Ward, who was dominant right off the bat. I mean, Bennington really didn't play much of the year. He did his job. I'm just trying to think. He gave up almost 4 goals, and every time that Dallas won except one game. Really, what it came down to why Dallas didn't move on is because they had no offensive power, to those last 2 games. Because the last 2 games, they scored a total of 2 goals. Then moving it back to the last 3 games, only scoring 4 goals. So that doesn't help them try to move on. And St. Louis found a way to win. And St. Louis, by January 1st, was dead last in the league. And they fought themselves back into being ranked 3rd in the Central Division. They were even fighting for a position in 1st. But Winnipeg took that over. So they had the ability to move on. And they just found a way to beat Dallas and, move on to San Jose. Now, watching the first game, what really needs to happen for St. Louis is penalties. They can't take any penalties. I think they had like 5 penalties tonight. And the issue is that if you remember going back to the first round, San Jose was down 3-0 in Game 7 against Vegas. And they found they had the 5-minute major, which helped them out to win that game, then go into overtime and win it there. You can't let that. They had a 5-on-3 opportunity. They cashed in. That's one of the things you can't let happen. So what needs to be done for St. Louis itself, you can't take penalties, because San Jose, when they smell blood in the water, they're going to go at it. I mean, their name is Sharks, right? The key for them is not to let that happen. And they just didn't play to the standard they have been playing. And I think with San Jose being the team, finding ways to win, not games, because I know I said in the last podcast, Boston and San Jose find ways to win games. They more along the lines of way to win series. And that's what San Jose did in the first round. I mean, even in the second round, I mean, they have played the most games possible so far. They've all gone to 7 games. And I think with the experience that is on the Sharks level versus what is on the St. Louis side, there's a big experience difference. So I think in order for the Blues to beat the Sharks is they have to find a way to slow down those key players. The Burns, you got to slow him down somehow. I know they were targeting Carlson most of the night, but that's not the real guy you want to go after. The real guy you want to go after is Burns. Myers, you need to go after Myers. He's going to be a pretty good. He had a spectacular goal today. But that's just something that they need to work on and slow down. Is the whole purpose of stopping them. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. I can't really say much about St. Louis as far as, you got Maroon, Schwartz. You got all these players that should be scoring goals and helping you guys out. But the issue that you're running into is they're being very aggressive as far as hits along the lines of that. You're getting a lot of that stuff, but you're not getting the goals, the production that you need to succeed. So what needs to happen is you need to find a way, because Martin Jones has been pulled out of 2 games, but that was against Vegas, and after Vegas he's been playing very well. I think Vegas has his number. I think they know how to beat them. Me personally, I think Vegas should be in this spot and not the Sharks. But you can't look back on it and say whatever needs to be said. I think it should have been. I will probably just have when I go over to the Sharks, I'll kind of explain my method to my madness in that aspect of it. But the Blues are better on the road than they are at home. And if they can't win these road games, they're not going to win at home. They're 3-4 at home, and now they're 6-2 away, and the Sharks are 6-1 at home. If you're going to be that road team that's going to go in and win these games, you got to win the games. And tonight they just didn't look like they wanted. They were aggressive. Yes, there was no feeling out method. They were going in and out. They were answering the goals that the Sharks were having, but it gets to a point where if you're keying on one player, like they're keying on Carlson, and that's not going to help you in this scenario. So if I'm the St. Louis Blues and I'm the coach, I go in first of all and say, all right, first of all, we can't take 5 penalties a night. You're not going to win any game taking 5 penalties a night. Their power play is god-awful. They haven't scored one in the past 18 attempts. So you're not going to get any help that way. You got to get under the skin of certain players. Evander Kane hasn't done much, but that's one player you want to get under. Burns, you want to try to get a little bit of him. Meyer, you want to get in there to get a little bit of getting him mentally off his game. And you got to have more production from your key players. Patrick Maroon only having 5 points, Tarasenko only having 6 points, Perron only having 7, O'Reilly has 10. But you're getting your production from Schwartz, Alex Pietrangelo, and O'Reilly. Where's your other people to give your production from? I mean, you're not getting that high production that you normally should be getting that got you to this point. But at this point, whatever team was hot coming in, that's gone. That coming into the regular season, that's gone. That's out of the question. You've played 2 rounds. It's about the team that's going to find a way to win the series. And San Jose has that ability to do that. And the St. Louis Blues need to come off on the right foot and have to expect Bennington to play better. Bennington is the only goalie that I would feel uncomfortable in this playoffs. Martin Jones is second on that. I mean, on your Eastern Conference side, you have Tuukka Rask and Mrazek, who are experienced, better goalies. And that's why I'm going to give more of a side to the Eastern Conference in winning this, because there's really not a goalie that's hot. I mean, Marc-Andre Fleury's gone, and that was the only really hot goalie that I would say, other than maybe Grubauer. But you're not getting that production that the goalies should be getting. I mean, yeah, it was 9 goals scored tonight, and that's gonna be an issue. You can't allow teams to score 9 goals a night. I mean, all together, not San Jose scores 6, St. Louis had 3, and San Jose had an empty netter, so they scored 5. All right, they scored 5 goals with the goalie behind, but you're not going to win any game. When you get to this point, it's about the hottest goalie, I should say. And they were talking, I forget who I was listening to. I was on ESPN, I was listening, and a person said, well, the hottest goalie is going to be Bennington. Well, you're going to tell me that a rookie goalie is going to be hot? Is going to be that person that's going to stop everything? And St. Louis's defense isn't. There was a reason they were in the bottom of the league. I think they just caught fire. They came together. Bennington played very, well. Everything started to come together, and they ended up winning games, getting the postseason. I mean, they had a tough come through. They beat Winnipeg. They beat Dallas, but Winnipeg wasn't anything spectacular. I mean, Hellbuck was a good goalie, but the toughest goalie they had to face was Dallas. And, they ended up beating Dallas, but there was so much going on Dallas' side that Bennington didn't get a lot of shots his way, and the shots that he did were easy to stop. So it's going to be fun to see. It's going to be interesting to see how this series is going to shape up. It's going to be a good series. It's probably going to go minimum of 6 games, I should say. A minimum of 6. I think that St. Louis is going to find a way to win a couple. San Jose is going to find a way to win a couple. But to this point, we'll get into St. Louis's stat leaders here. Points, Jaden Schwartz has 12. Jaden Schwartz also has 8 goals, most out of everyone. Alex Pietrangelo has 9 assists. Jaden Schwartz is a +5. He leads the team in that. Then going on to Jordan Bennington, not counting tonight, he's played 13 games, 8 wins, 5 losses, a goals against a 2.39, and a save percentage of .15. So when you get into that stat, it's going to be interesting to see how everything rolls around. I mean, he didn't have a very good night tonight, so maybe things will change on that side of things. But we're going to go ahead and shift gears here, and we're going to talk about San Jose, who has played every game, technically. I mean, every game that you possibly could play up to this point, playing this is the 3rd round. So 14 games. They played a minimum of 14 games, which is technically the maximum if you count the 2 together. But they played Colorado, who Colorado is going to be very, very good in these coming next years. They're going to be deadly. You're going to see more of them in the playoffs. I just think at this point they're too young. I don't think they have everything revolving around them. And they faced a San Jose Shark team who basically got a redemption. Going back to the first round against Vegas up 3-0 with just over 5 minutes. I forget who calls. I know that's a big thing, and I should have researched it before I got in. But when I was watching the game, the cross check to the head, I'm like, okay, if Las Vegas loses this game, that guy should be fired. You let that guy go. You send him down the minor. You say, listen, you are very undisciplined. There's no reason to even if it was just a 2-minute minor or a double minor, there was no need for that. And I don't have a problem with him getting kicked out of the game because, yeah, he did cross-check him in the throat. And I think that was the right decision to do. And that's when, you step up as the penalty killing and you try to stop that. And the Sharks just caught fire and was like, all right, hey, let's go. We're gonna go. And they score 4. Vegas goes back to tie it up, and they lose and Vegas loses in overtime. There's a lot to be said about. I don't know what everyone's feeling is on that penalty and what should have been done. A lot of people were complaining that, but the first round is the first round. It is what it is. But we'll move on to the second round. Obviously, went to Game 7, and the Sharks could have closed it out in Game 6, but they lost in overtime 4-3. And it was a very tight series. There's only there's 1, 2, 3 games where it was decided more than 3 goals, or 3 or more goals. The first game, San Jose comes rocking at 5-2. Game 2, Colorado comes 4-3. Game 4, San Jose 4-2. Game 4, Colorado 3, San Jose 0. Game 5, San Jose 2, Colorado 1. Game 6, Colorado 4, San Jose 3, and that was the overtime loss. And then Game 7, San Jose 3, Colorado 2. So it was back and forth, basically. That's what and there was no team that could get a winning streak going. So really, it just came down to the first team to win. I mean, if the roles reversed, maybe Colorado would made it through. And Colorado had a good enough team to make it through, and I wouldn't have been surprised. Being a Blackhawks fan, I was watching a lot of them. The first game we played again, I was like, God, these guys are terrible. And then they put Grubauer in, and Grubauer was playing unbelievable. And that guy is gonna be very good. And Colorado, I think, is known for very good goaltenders. I mean, you got Patrick Waugh, Varlamov, and now you got Grubauer. And you got a young team with Landeskog, that guy that they've just brought up. I can't think of his name. But, I wonder where they would have been if they would have kept Matt Duchene. Because I guess Ottawa lost that, and it kind of gave him back. So I guess it kind of worked out for him. But I wonder where Matt Duchene would have been. I guess Columbus gets it because they traded for him. Okay, but I just wonder how that team would have been. I know Matt Duchene wasn't really producing for them, but it would just been interesting to see, what would have been if he would have stayed. And he obviously did something good with Columbus as they brought it all together and they made it to the second round, but ended up losing to Boston. It's just one of those things. But I mean, what San Jose needs to do is they need to key off of what happened tonight. They need to find a way to get Bennington out of it. And the turnovers is what really killed St. Louis. That's what really was. At one point, it was like 12-5 in the turnover ratio. So San Jose is very good with turning those attempts over. And I think that's what kills you when you have an inexperienced goalie, because he's not used to seeing certain things. And when a team plays really good in front of you, like he did with Dallas, you're not going to see those opportunities, and you're not going to have a tough game. You're not going to have a tough series. Even if the series goes long, you're not going to be really pressured like he was tonight. This is the first time I think that St. Louis was really like, oh crap, it could have turned to a crapshoot. But St. Louis has an ability to find a way to fight back into games. And the scoreboard doesn't really show what the game was like. It was back and forth. The 5-on-3 penalty kill they had to do was a really big thing. I tweeted how I said, listen, St. Louis, you keep giving up penalties, you ain't gonna win this series. You just go back to Game 7, the first round, and see what happens. See what happened to Vegas. It's gonna be a very, very decent game, series at least. The Central Division is going to be, for the Western side, is going to be pretty stacked for a while. You got Winnipeg, you got St. Louis, Colorado, Dallas. It's going to depend on them. I don't quite know. I think what really made them go that far was was Bishop, because they didn't really seem like the players were producing at the time they need to be. So on the big stage, they may sputter out. As a Blackhawks fan, if we get Corey Crawford all year, we bring in some young guys having the third round pick. I feel like the Central Division versus the West is going to be pretty well stacked. And right now, your top two teams in the Pacific Division are going to be Vegas and the Sharks. Yes, Calgary won the Pacific Division, but I think there was no offensive production. They calmed down. This team wins, and you just kind of lose track of them because they're hit or miss. And this year they were a hit, but they got in the playoffs and they couldn't produce worth this crap. So it's going to be one of those things that needs to be done and needs to be said that they need to work on. I think they need to get rid of Smith. Yes, he's a good goalie, but for the team that you're going to have to maybe take a year and be competitive, but also rebuild at the same time. So you're going to have to find a different goalie. I just don't think he's going to do it, and you need to find a way for your offensive production to be done. But that's just going to be one of those things that need to be looked at and say, hey, that's something you need to fix. With this series, it's brute strength versus brute strength. It's going to be who's going to out hit each other, who's going to cause turnovers, and what needs to be done is when they get opportunities, they need to put the opportunity in the back of the net. You have two goalies that aren't really hot. You're not going to expect them to get a shutout. You're not going to expect them to give up 2 or less goals in a game. So what needs to be done is defense needs to be playing better. You need to have people out in front of the net, making sure that shots get blocked, or even on the offensive side, making sure the goalies don't see where the puck's going in. You have a rookie goalie on one side, and you have a so-so goalie on the other side. Now, you could say I'm completely wrong, but it comes down to the ability to find a way to put the puck in the back of the net. You can't take this is a series where St. Louis can't take penalties. On the other side, San Jose, I think, could give up a couple penalties here and there, but it's going to depend on who goes to the net, or who goes into the box. So it's going to be one of those. It's going to be a shindig that is going to be a very good series. Both Western and Eastern conferences are going to be very good series. It's going to come down to the ability to find a way to win this series. Now, it could be a clean sweep, after watching game 1. If St. Louis comes out like they did and they cause themselves turmoil and they don't come out productive, then it could be a clean sweep, and San Jose could be sitting in the Stanley Cup Finals waiting for whoever to come. But we'll go ahead and get into the San Jose Sharks. Point leader is Logan Couture. Goal leader is Logan Couture. Erik Karlsson at 13 assists. Logan Couture at a +7. And then Martin Jones, not counting tonight, 14 games played, 8 wins, 5 losses, 2.72 goals against, and a .910 save percentage. When you look at the two goalies' save percentages, yes, Bennington did have a 5% better, but you kind of have to look at the teams they play. Vegas comes out going at it all the time. So it's going to be one of those things that it's going to be a good series. That's what I should say. I know I'm starting to ramble. I'm kind of running out of things to say. St. Louis can't make mistakes, can't turn the puck over. San Jose needs to find a way to be ahead in games and not let themselves get to a point where they have to fight back in games. If they have to fight back in games, they may be one game too short or one goal too short, and them going home, sitting on the couch, watching the Stanley Cup playoffs instead of being in it. Or I should say the finals. But that's going to do it for now. I'm not quite sure when I will do the next Off the Post podcast. It will probably be after the Western Eastern Conference Finals are done and over with. And what I'll do is when we're in the Stanley Cup Finals, I will try and do a report after each game. I will go through the stats and talk about what I saw, what needs to be done for both sides, how the series is going to roll, we're going to look at all the stats there. So that's going to be whether or not I can be able to do that with personal life, school, and all that other stuff. But be sure to follow me on Twitter at IIVTechII. Also, I have a Facebook page. Be sure to like that page when I send up updates and stuff like that. Don't be afraid to comment, question, concern. I'll just talk about news or whatever in the NHL. If you're a Blackhawks fan, be sure to follow me also on my other podcast, which is VTech Talks Blackhawks Hockey. Both podcasts will go up on my Twitter and also my Facebook page as well as Spreaker. If you enjoy the podcast, be sure to share, like, comment, whatever you need to do. Make sure all your hockey fans, friends, be sure to send that to them so we can hopefully make things a little bit more productive and better and have more things to talk about. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, rest of your evening, whenever you're watching this, and hopefully catch you in the next podcast.
Check this.